Alert level 2.
Copy, scanning frequencies.
Signals hopping. Get Oslo on comms.
Готовность подтверждена?
Так точно, товарищ полковник. Все системы в норме.
Отлично. Активируйте финальную проверку.
Выполняю.
The screen is dark. Then, a red dot blinks steadily on a NATO radar console in northern Norway. Naval vessels shift position in the icy waters of the Baltic Sea. Analysts lean forward. Something unusual is approaching. Thousands of kilometers away, in the Taiwan Strait, Chinese warships cut through the waters with precision. Fighter jets streak across the sky, their contrails slicing the morning haze. Satellites overhead capture every movement. Missile batteries repositioning, command centers abuzz with activity. In New York and London, traders freeze, screens flashing errors. A cyber attack has penetrated critical banking systems, halting transactions in milliseconds. The world's digital lifelines shudder. In Moscow, nuclear drills continue with clinical precision. Officers monitor ICBM readiness. Command protocols hum through secure channels. Everywhere, leaders are watching, calculating, preparing. Every decision carries weight. One misstep could ripple across continents, igniting crises no one can contain. The stage is set. Invisible lines of power, technology, and ambition crisscross the globe. The hidden war is already underway. Across Eastern Europe, NATO forces maintain a heightened state of readiness. Since 2014, following the annexation of Crimea, NATO has expanded its presence along the alliance's eastern flank. Thousands of troops, armored vehicles, and air defense systems are stationed in Poland, the Baltic states, and Romania. The United States deploys rotational brigades equipped with Abrams tanks, Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, and Patriot missile batteries, signaling a commitment to collective defense under Article 5. For Russia, these deployments are not abstract exercises. They are seen as encirclement, a strategic squeeze on Moscow's periphery. The Kremlin responds with large-scale military drills, hypersonic missile tests, and the positioning of advanced S-400 and S-500 surface-to-air systems along western borders. Farther east, the Taiwan Strait has become a flashpoint in the Asia-Pacific. The People's Liberation Army Navy plan has expanded its carrier strike group operations, while China's missile forces conduct routine drills aimed at the island. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense reports increased incursions by PLA fighter jets into its air defense identification zone, straining regional air traffic and heightening the risk of miscalculation. The United States, asserting the Taiwan Relations Act, maintains naval deployments and frequent freedom of navigation operations. The U.S. Indo-Pacific Command has increased surveillance flights, while Japan and Australia monitor the region closely, reinforcing a network of allied deterrence. In the Middle East, instability remains acute. Iran continues to expand its missile program, while supporting proxy groups across Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. Israel, in response, has deployed advanced missile defense systems, including Iron Dome batteries and David's Sling interceptors, while conducting precision airstrikes on Iranian positions and weapons convoys. Tensions in the Persian Gulf remain high, with repeated attacks on oil tankers and ports raising the specter of a wider confrontation that could disrupt global energy markets. Saudi Arabia and the UAE monitor these developments closely, balancing internal security concerns with strategic alliances to the West. Global military spending has surged to levels not seen since the Cold War. In 2023, the United States spent over $880 billion on defense, with significant investments in nuclear modernization, hypersonic research, and AI-enabled systems. China's defense budget exceeded $300 billion, emphasizing the expansion of the plan, missile capabilities, and advanced electronic warfare units. Russia, despite economic sanctions, maintains a $90 billion annual defense budget, focusing on nuclear deterrence, Arctic bases, and modernizing its land forces. Across NATO, combined spending exceeds $1 trillion, with advanced fighter jets, drones, and cyber warfare units prioritized. Alliances are redefining strategic calculations. NATO, strengthened by the accession of Finland and Sweden, maintains an integrated air defense and rapid reaction capability. In Asia, the Quad, comprising the US, Japan, India, and Australia, coordinates maritime surveillance and joint exercises. Russia has deepened military cooperation with China, conducting joint naval drills in the Pacific and sharing intelligence on missile development. Simultaneously, non-aligned powers, from Turkey to Brazil, watch the escalating tensions and adapt defense postures, aware that the global balance is increasingly multipolar. Technological competition overlays these military developments. Hypersonic missiles, AI-guided drones, and satellite reconnaissance reshape traditional calculations of force. A strike that once required days of planning can now be executed in minutes, and autonomous systems introduce uncertainty into conflict management. Space has become a domain of competition, with anti-satellite weapons and intelligence-gathering satellites operating alongside conventional forces. The global context is clear. Borders and oceans are no longer safe from rapid escalation. Military modernization, alliances, and strategic posturing intersect with economic vulnerabilities and technological leaps. The world is tense, interconnected, and fragile. In this environment, even a localized conflict has the potential to cascade across continents. While military tensions dominate headlines, the global economy quietly amplifies the risk of conflict. Supply chains remain fragile, stretched across continents, and dependent on just-in-time logistics. Ports in Shanghai, Rotterdam, and Los Angeles handle millions of containers monthly, yet a single disruption, a port closure, a shipping blockade, or cyber attack can ripple across industries worldwide. In 2022, global semiconductor shortages disrupted automobile production, electronics, and military supply lines, illustrating how intertwined civilian and military logistics have become. Countries are increasingly stockpiling critical resources, from rare earth metals to energy reserves, preparing for scenarios where trade routes are compromised. Economic warfare has emerged as a central tool of statecraft. Sanctions against Russia following the Ukraine invasion targeted energy exports, banking, and technology. Moscow responded with counter-sanctions and increased strategic partnerships with China, India, and Iran. China, for its part, leverages control over global supply chains, particularly in semiconductors and rare earth minerals, to strengthen its bargaining power. These sanctions and countermeasures affect not only the targeted nations, but ripple through global markets, influencing inflation, unemployment, and social stability. Economic vulnerabilities now carry strategic weight comparable to military forces. Cyber warfare operates in parallel. Critical infrastructure, power grids, banking networks, transportation hubs, and communication systems is increasingly digital and interconnected. State-sponsored cyberattacks have grown in frequency and sophistication. The 2022 attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure demonstrated the ability to plunge cities into darkness remotely. In 2023, financial institutions in Europe and the U.S. experienced repeated malware incursions, some traced to advanced persistent threat groups linked to nation-states. Cyberattacks no longer require kinetic confrontation. A single operation can cripple an economy, disrupt military command, or destabilize entire regions within hours. AI and autonomous systems add new dimensions of unpredictability. Drones equipped with AI guidance can strike with precision or operate in swarms beyond human reaction time. Surveillance and reconnaissance have become faster and more accurate, enabling states to detect movements before they occur. Yet AI also introduces risks of error or miscalculation. Algorithms can misinterpret signals, leading to false alerts or unintended escalation. Commanders must weigh the speed and efficiency of AI against the unpredictability inherent in automated decision-making. Global financial networks amplify vulnerability. Stock exchanges, electronic banking systems, and cryptocurrency platforms operate 24/7. While this enables rapid global commerce, it also exposes the world to systemic shocks. A cyber attack on interbank networks or critical exchanges could freeze transactions worldwide, eroding trust in the financial system. Governments are investing heavily in cybersecurity and resilience, but the interconnected nature of global finance means that no system is impervious. Energy dependence remains a strategic lever. Europe relies heavily on Russian natural gas, Asia on Middle Eastern oil, and the U.S. on domestic and imported energy supplies. Any disruption in these flows, whether from military action, sanctions, or sabotage, can have immediate economic and social consequences. Energy scarcity could trigger inflation, political unrest, and resource competition, compounding tensions already fueled by military posturing. Even routine international trade is a potential flashpoint. Shipping lanes in the South China Sea, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Black Sea are vital arteries for global commerce. Militarization of these waterways increases the risk that a misstep, an intercepted vessel, an accidental collision, or an unauthorized blockade could spark a broader crisis. The global economy, once assumed to be a stabilizing factor, now carries its own fragility, tied closely to military strategy and geopolitical maneuvering. In this context, every decision, economic, military, or technological, interacts with the others. Sanctions, troop movements, cyber operations, and AI deployments are not isolated acts. They're interconnected levers in a complex, high-stakes system. One disruption can cascade through markets, infrastructure, and military planning simultaneously, amplifying the risk of miscalculation. The modern battlefield is not limited to land, sea, or air. It exists across digital networks, economic flows, and global supply chains. The world is increasingly aware that conflict today is multidimensional. It is not only measured in tanks and missiles, but in code, capital, and supply. In this environment, hidden wars, economic, cyber, and technological, run parallel to conventional military posturing. Each escalation, each attack, each disruption adds layers of risk, bringing the possibility of a wider confrontation closer to reality. The Taiwan Strait remains one of the most volatile flashpoints in modern geopolitics. Beijing considers Taiwan a breakaway province, insisting on eventual reunification under the One China principle. In recent years, the People's Liberation Army, PLA, has conducted repeated exercises simulating amphibious assaults, missile strikes, and air superiority operations near the island. Taiwan, with its modest but technologically advanced military, has fortified coastal defenses, deployed mobile missile batteries, and maintained a modern air force equipped with F-16s and indigenous fighter jets. The United States, bound by the Taiwan Relations Act, conducts frequent freedom of navigation operations and arms sales, ensuring the island's defensive capacity. Analysts warn that even a short miscalculation, an intercepted aircraft, a misfired missile, or a collision at sea, could escalate into open conflict, drawing the U.S., Japan, and regional allies into a confrontation that could ripple across the Indo-Pacific. The stakes are magnified by Taiwan's central role in global technology supply chains, particularly semiconductors, making the island not only a military flashpoint, but an economic one as well. In Eastern Europe, the potential for direct confrontation between NATO and Russia remains high. The war in Ukraine has already strained relations to levels unseen since the Cold War. NATO's eastern flank, from the Baltics to Poland, is fortified with troops, tanks, and air defenses. Russia, perceiving encirclement, has mobilized forces along its western borders and continues to modernize its tactical nuclear arsenal and hypersonic missiles. Exercises such as Zapad 2021 and Vostok 2022 demonstrate Russia's ability to move large formations rapidly. Analysts caution that any NATO attempt to counter Russian advances in Ukraine or a Russian strike into NATO territory could trigger Article 5 responses, potentially escalating a regional conflict into a broader confrontation. Satellite imagery and intelligence reports reveal both sides are on alert, with rapid reaction units ready to deploy, creating an environment where a single incident could spark a chain reaction. The Middle East remains a persistent source of tension, particularly between Iran and Israel. Tehran's missile program continues to advance, with missiles capable of striking throughout the region. Iran's support for proxy groups in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen adds layers of complexity. Israel, in turn, maintains one of the most sophisticated air forces in the world, coupled with missile defense systems like Iron Dome, David Sling, and Arrow interceptors. Cyber operations, sabotage, and targeted airstrikes are part of the ongoing low-intensity conflict, but each escalation carries the risk of broader war. A strike on Iranian nuclear facilities, a misfired missile, or a significant cyber attack on critical infrastructure could rapidly draw in regional powers, including Saudi Arabia, the United States, and potentially Russia or China through alliance obligations. The Middle East's dense web of alliances and rivalries means even localized escalations could trigger cascading crises, affecting global energy supplies and destabilizing international markets. Across these flashpoints, a common threat emerges: proximity, rapid mobilization, and high-stakes strategic calculations create conditions where misperception or error can have outsized consequences. In Taiwan, a single collision in the strait could trigger missile exchanges. In Eastern Europe, an unplanned escalation along NATO's border could involve nuclear-armed states. In the Middle East, a precision strike or cyber attack could set off a regional conflagration with global repercussions. Cinematic imagery captures this tension. Fighter jets streaking over contested waters, armored columns rumbling through forests, missile silos opening under the cold light of dawn, and naval fleets converging in strategic choke points. Intelligence officers analyze satellite feeds, commanders weigh options in secure bunkers, and world leaders deliberate under the weight of global scrutiny. Each flashpoint is a pressure cooker connected not only to regional politics, but to the broader architecture of international power. These are not theoretical scenarios. They are ongoing, dynamic tensions unfolding across multiple theaters simultaneously. The world's major powers are poised, watching, and calculating, aware that even limited actions carry the potential to ignite wider conflict. The question is no longer whether war could occur in these regions, but how the next misstep will ripple across the interconnected global system. The South China Sea has emerged as a strategic tinderbox, where territorial claims overlap with some of the world's busiest shipping lanes. China asserts sovereignty over nearly the entire sea through the Nine-Dash Line, while Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei maintain competing claims. The United States and its allies conduct regular freedom of navigation operations to challenge Beijing's claims and ensure the movement of global commerce. Chinese Coast Guard vessels and PLA Navy ships frequently shadow these operations, creating moments of friction that could escalate rapidly. Any miscalculation, a collision, an aggressive boarding, or an accidental missile launch could trigger a confrontation drawing multiple powers into a regional conflict. Satellite imagery shows artificial islands equipped with missile batteries, radar installations, and airstrips, signaling Beijing's intent to assert control. For regional states, even minor incidents risk sparking a chain reaction that could draw in the United States, Japan, Australia, and potentially other regional actors, highlighting how economic stakes and territorial ambitions intersect in this volatile maritime arena. Cyber warfare introduces an entirely different dimension to modern conflict. Unlike conventional flashpoints, cyberattacks can strike silently, targeting financial systems, power grids, water supplies, or communication networks. In 2022, Ukraine experienced repeated cyberattacks on energy infrastructure, plunging cities into darkness without a single bullet fired. In 2023, ransomware and state-sponsored attacks on banking and logistics systems in Europe and North America demonstrated how vulnerable interconnected networks remain. A coordinated attack on global financial infrastructure could halt transactions across continents, disrupt stock exchanges, and trigger cascading economic crises. Military command networks, reliant on digital communications and satellites, could be compromised simultaneously. In an interconnected world, cyber warfare has become both a precursor to kinetic conflict and a potential trigger for broader escalation, making it a high-stakes flashpoint that could ignite crisis anywhere. Artificial intelligence and autonomous weapon systems add unprecedented uncertainty. Modern militaries increasingly deploy AI-guided drones, autonomous surveillance units, and algorithm-driven targeting systems. Swarms of unmanned aerial vehicles can execute complex missions faster than human reaction times, while automated missile defense systems can respond to perceived threats in milliseconds. While these systems enhance military effectiveness, they also introduce risks of miscalculation. A malfunction, a misinterpreted signal, or a false alarm could provoke a retaliatory strike before human operators have a chance to intervene. Analysts warn that in a high-tension scenario, whether in Eastern Europe, the Taiwan Strait, or the Middle East, AI-driven errors could trigger unintended escalation. Autonomous systems blur the line between human decision-making and machine action, creating flashpoints where technology accelerates the pace of conflict beyond conventional control. Across these flashpoints, a pattern emerges. Modern conflict is increasingly multi-domain. Traditional battlefields exist alongside cyberspace, outer space, and economic networks. An incident in the South China Sea could coincide with a cyber attack on global banks, while AI-driven defense systems misinterpret the threat and respond aggressively. The interconnectedness of these domains magnifies risk, transforming localized incidents into global crises. Cinematic visuals bring these scenarios to life. Satellites trace the movement of naval fleets across contested waters. Servers flash red in cyberwar rooms as experts trace malicious activity in real time. Drones streak across desert skies and oceans, guided by algorithms analyzing thousands of data points per second. Analysts in secure bunkers weigh the implications of each movement, each signal, each line of code. The pace is relentless, and the consequences of error potentially catastrophic. These flashpoints are not isolated. They're intertwined with strategic alliances, economic dependencies, and technological advances. The South China Sea, cyber networks, and autonomous weapons systems represent modern vulnerabilities, where the threshold for escalation is lower and the speed of conflict is faster. As military, economic, and technological pressures converge, the global system faces unprecedented instability. What was once theoretical is now tangible. A hidden war with visible consequences ready to ignite across multiple theaters simultaneously. The United States remains the world's most formidable conventional military power. Its network of aircraft carriers, forward-deployed Marines, and rapid deployment brigades allows it to project force globally. The U.S. Navy operates 11 nuclear-powered carriers, each capable of carrying more than 70 aircraft. F-35 stealth fighters, deployed across carriers and air bases worldwide, provide both air superiority and precision strike capabilities. The U.S. Army maintains armored brigades equipped with Abrams tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, and long-range artillery. Combined, these forces offer the ability to respond rapidly to crises on multiple continents simultaneously. The U.S. also maintains a nuclear triad of land-based ICBMs, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and strategic bombers, ensuring second strike capability even under extreme attack scenarios. Hypersonic missile programs, under development in both the Army and Navy, aim to reduce response times from hours to minutes, creating both strategic advantage and new layers of tension. China's People's Liberation Army, PLA, has undergone rapid modernization over the past 2 decades. Its navy has expanded to the largest in the world by number of vessels, with a growing fleet of aircraft carriers, destroyers, and amphibious assault ships. The PLA Air Force operates 5th-generation fighters, long-range bombers, and advanced drones capable of surveillance and strike missions. On land, mechanized divisions equipped with modern tanks, artillery, and missile units allow for rapid regional deployment. China's missile forces are particularly advanced, including hypersonic glide vehicles and intermediate-range ballistic missiles targeting key regional bases. Nuclear modernization programs have expanded the PLA rocket force, emphasizing mobility, survivability, and diversification of launch platforms. Combined with robust cyber and electronic warfare units, China presents a multi-domain challenge to regional and global powers. Russia, despite economic constraints, maintains a highly capable and technologically advanced military. Its ground forces, centered on mechanized and airborne units, remain combat-tested following operations in Syria and Ukraine. Russia's strategic nuclear arsenal remains among the world's largest, with modern ICBMs, submarine-launched missiles, and mobile launchers capable of rapid deployment. Hypersonic weapons, including the Avangard glide vehicle and Kinzhal air-launched missile, offer both speed and maneuverability, designed to bypass conventional missile defenses. The Russian Navy, though smaller than China or the U.S., projects power in the Arctic, Baltic, and Pacific regions, with nuclear submarines and long-range strike capabilities. Russia also invests heavily in electronic warfare and cyber units, integrating advanced systems into both defensive and offensive strategies. NATO, as a collective force, leverages the combined capabilities of 31 member states. European members contribute armored brigades, fighter wings, and air defense systems, while the U.S. provides command infrastructure, intelligence networks, and advanced technology. NATO's integrated air and missile defense system, spanning Scandinavia to the Mediterranean, is designed to detect and neutralize threats rapidly. Rapid reaction forces, including the Very High Readiness Joint Task Force, allow for immediate deployment in crisis scenarios. NATO's strength lies not only in the sum of its forces, but in interoperability, intelligence sharing, and the ability to coordinate multi-domain operations across land, sea, and air. Nuclear arsenals remain the ultimate deterrent. The United States maintains approximately 5,500 nuclear warheads, with 1,600 deployed and operationally ready. Russia holds a similar number, while China's arsenal, though smaller at roughly 500 to 600 warheads, is rapidly expanding. The principle of mutually assured destruction continues to restrain direct conflict between nuclear powers, yet modernization, missile defense, and hypersonic delivery systems create uncertainty, increasing strategic tension. Technological integration shapes the battlefield. Drones, precision-guided munitions, satellite reconnaissance, and real-time battlefield intelligence allow these powers to detect and engage adversaries more quickly than ever. Space assets, including early warning satellites, reconnaissance platforms, and GPS networks, provide critical advantages in command, control, and situational awareness. The modern military balance is no longer defined solely by numbers of troops or tanks. It is defined by integration across domains, speed of decision-making, and resilience in the face of multi-domain attacks. In this environment, global military power is both concentrated and distributed. The United States projects force worldwide. China dominates its regional sphere, Russia defends its strategic periphery, and NATO coordinates multinational capabilities across Europe and beyond. Nuclear arsenals provide a constant shadow, ensuring that even the most conventional deployments are under the lens of strategic calculus. The world's major powers are not evenly matched, yet each possesses asymmetric capabilities that could rapidly escalate a regional confrontation into a global crisis. Modern military power is increasingly defined by technology and asymmetric capabilities. Drones, both armed and unarmed, have become central to the strategies of the world's major powers. The United States operates MQ, 9 Reapers, and RQ, 4 Global Hawks for intelligence, surveillance, and precision strikes, while China deploys Wing Long and CH-series drones capable of both reconnaissance and attack. Russia, too, integrates unmanned systems, often to supplement conventional forces or test new weapon concepts. Swarms of drones, coordinated via AI algorithms, can overwhelm traditional air defenses, creating new vulnerabilities even for advanced militaries. The speed, precision, and autonomy of these systems are changing how battles are fought and how conflicts escalate, particularly in high-density theaters like Eastern Europe or the Taiwan Strait. Artificial intelligence also extends beyond autonomous systems. AI-driven decision support allows militaries to process vast amounts of intelligence in real time, identify patterns, and anticipate adversary movements. Machine learning algorithms analyze satellite imagery, communication signals, and cyber activity, providing commanders with faster situational awareness than ever before. Yet reliance on AI carries inherent risks. Errors in interpretation, system glitches, or deliberate manipulation could trigger unintended responses, potentially accelerating escalation before human operators can intervene. The integration of AI into both defensive and offensive systems introduces a layer of uncertainty, making strategic calculations more complex and high stakes. Space has emerged as a critical domain for modern conflict. Satellites underpin navigation, reconnaissance, communication, and missile early warning systems. The United States operates a constellation of GPS, spy satellites, and missile warning satellites, while China and Russia have rapidly expanded their space-based capabilities, including anti-satellite, ASAT, weapons. Demonstrations of ASAT capabilities, satellites intentionally destroyed or disabled, serve as both deterrent and warning. In a high-intensity conflict, space assets could be targeted to blind adversaries, disrupt communications, or degrade missile guidance, adding a strategic dimension where terrestrial dominance is insufficient without orbital control. Electronic warfare complements these capabilities. Russia, in particular, has demonstrated advanced electronic attack and defense systems capable of jamming radar, communications, and GPS signals across wide areas. NATO and the United States have developed countermeasures, including frequency-hopping communications, hardened electronics, and cyber-resistant command networks. The interplay of electronic and cyber warfare creates a layered battlefield, where disruptions in one domain cascade into others, affecting air, sea, and land operations simultaneously. Hypersonic missiles further redefine the strategic equation. Traveling at speeds exceeding Mach 5, these weapons can evade most existing missile defenses. The United States, China, and Russia have fielded or are testing various hypersonic glide vehicles and air-launched missiles. Their speed and maneuverability compress decision timelines, increasing the risk of miscalculation and raising stakes for nuclear and conventional conflict alike. In an integrated battlefield with AI-guided systems, hypersonic strikes could be executed within minutes of detection, leaving little time for political deliberation. Cyber and economic warfare remain entwined with technological military capabilities. Attacks on critical infrastructure can amplify the effectiveness of conventional operations, disrupting supply lines, communications, and power grids. Similarly, targeting satellite networks or autonomous systems could cripple command structures. Modern militaries plan operations across domains simultaneously, from cyberspace to outer space, blending kinetic strikes with digital and economic disruption. The result is a complex battlefield where dominance in one area cannot guarantee overall advantage. NATO's technological edge lies in integration. European members contribute advanced air defense systems, precision-guided munitions, and electronic warfare expertise, while the United States provides network command systems, intelligence satellites, and advanced drones. China leverages regional proximity, numerical superiority in drones, and AI-enhanced targeting to offset conventional disadvantages, while Russia uses asymmetric tactics, including electronic warfare, cyber operations, and rapid deployment of mobile missile systems. Ultimately, the modern military balance is multidimensional. Conventional forces remain critical, but technological integration, AI, drones, hypersonics, cyber, space, and electronic warfare, define strategic advantage. Conflicts today are not fought in isolation. They occur simultaneously across domains, compressed in time, and amplified by interconnectivity. Miscalculation in one domain can cascade rapidly, escalating localized skirmishes into global crises. The world's major powers are poised at the edge of this high-speed, multi-domain battlefield. Capabilities are immense, yet so too is the risk. The integration of technology and conventional strength ensures that any escalation, accidental or deliberate, could have consequences that are immediate, global, and irreversible. The specter of nuclear escalation remains the ultimate constraint on global conflict. Despite decades of arms control agreements, the world's major powers maintain large and modernized arsenals designed for deterrence. The United States and Russia alone each control thousands of nuclear warheads, with delivery systems ranging from land-based ICBMs to submarine-launched ballistic missiles and strategic bombers. China, India, and Pakistan have smaller but growing arsenals, while North Korea continues missile development at a rapid pace. The principle of mutually assured destruction has restrained direct conflict between nuclear powers, yet modernization programs, hypersonic missiles, mobile launchers, and advanced command systems introduce uncertainty. A misinterpreted radar signal, a false alert, or a regional escalation could trigger nuclear postures within minutes, making deterrence both stabilizing and perilously fragile. Economic collapse is another looming consequence of global escalation. Modern economies are tightly interconnected. Disruptions in one region ripple across the world. A blockade in the South China Sea could halt the movement of critical goods, from electronics to energy, affecting markets globally. Cyberattacks targeting financial institutions, ports, or logistics hubs could paralyze commerce, triggering inflation, unemployment, and widespread instability. Sanctions, while aimed at coercion, can have unintended consequences. Energy prices spike, supply chains fracture, and vulnerable populations suffer first. Even minor disruptions in trade or production have the potential to cascade into systemic crises, particularly in economies reliant on globalized supply chains. Cyber blackouts compound these vulnerabilities. Critical infrastructure, power grids, water treatment facilities, telecommunications networks, relies on digital systems that are increasingly interconnected and exposed. A coordinated cyber attack could shut down cities, disable transportation networks, and compromise emergency services. The 2022 attacks on Ukraine's energy sector demonstrated how targeted digital strikes can plunge populations into darkness without firing a single shot. In a globalized economy, simultaneous attacks on multiple nations' infrastructure could amplify the impact, creating chaos and undermining confidence in governance. Essential services, hospitals, and logistics networks could falter, and the pace of recovery would determine whether localized crises escalate into regional or global emergencies. Humanitarian consequences would follow immediately. Disrupted energy supplies could affect heating in winter, water treatment, and food distribution. Financial paralysis could prevent governments from providing aid, while panic in markets would exacerbate instability. Populations already stressed by inflation, unemployment, or regional conflict would bear the brunt first. Unlike conventional warfare, these effects are not limited to borders. They spread along the veins of interconnected systems, striking both allies and adversaries alike. Even routine military operations carry potential economic consequences. Naval blockades, port seizures, or regional conflicts can disrupt the flow of oil, natural gas, and key commodities, driving prices higher worldwide. Nations dependent on imports may face shortages of essential goods, including medicine, food, and industrial components. The combination of military, cyber, and economic pressures creates a feedback loop, where disruption in one sector intensifies fragility in another. In this sense, global conflict does not remain confined to the battlefield. It reverberates through commerce, finance, and daily life. Strategic miscalculations could magnify these risks. A targeted strike on a nuclear facility, a misfired missile, or a major cyber attack could prompt retaliatory actions across multiple domains. The speed of modern military and cyber systems compresses decision timelines, leaving little room for deliberation. In a tense environment, even limited actions may cascade into a broader crisis, threatening not only regional stability, but the foundations of the global system. In cinematic terms, these consequences are stark. Power grids flicker and fail, financial centers display red alert dashboards, and ports and shipping lanes clog under halted commerce. Command centers hum with alerts, while analysts monitor digital feeds, tracing attacks in real time. The world's interconnected systems, digital, economic, and military, are revealed not as resilient, but as fragile and interdependent. Each flashpoint has the potential to cascade, transforming localized incidents into systemic crises that could engulf entire regions, and in a worst-case scenario, the world itself. Military escalation inevitably triggers humanitarian crises. Large-scale conflicts displace millions, creating refugee flows that strain neighboring states and international aid systems. In Eastern Europe, for example, the war in Ukraine has already produced over 8 million refugees, overwhelming border countries, and challenging global logistics. A broader NATO-Russia confrontation could double or triple these numbers, stretching resources, health systems, and housing infrastructure to the breaking point. In the Indo-Pacific, a Taiwan Strait conflict could force millions from coastal cities to flee inland or across international borders, disrupting regional economies and destabilizing governments. Displacement is rarely isolated. It triggers cascading social and political consequences, from local unrest to international pressure on alliances and relief networks. Energy resources are equally vulnerable. The global economy remains dependent on concentrated supplies of oil, gas, and critical minerals. Conflicts in the Persian Gulf, the South China Sea, or Eastern Europe could disrupt production and transport, sending prices soaring. Russia's natural gas exports to Europe, Middle Eastern oil flows, and rare earth minerals from China are integral to industrialized nations' energy and technology sectors. Any interruption forces countries to scramble for alternatives, often at great cost, and creates incentives for opportunistic or aggressive actions by other states. Energy scarcity can inflame domestic unrest, trigger inflation, and exacerbate competition between nations, transforming natural resources into weapons of geopolitical leverage. Cascading crises extend beyond immediate conflict zones. Economic shocks reverberate through global markets, affecting supply chains for food, medicine, and manufactured goods. Shortages amplify social unrest, particularly in vulnerable regions. A cyber attack or disruption in financial networks can compound these stresses, making recovery slower and more fragile. Humanitarian crises intersect with economic instability, as governments face rising demand for aid while their revenue streams are under pressure. In extreme scenarios, failed states and regional instability can provide fertile ground for extremist groups, further destabilizing already fragile regions. Global governance and international institutions are often ill-prepared to respond to multi-domain crises. Refugee flows, economic shocks, and disrupted supply chains require coordination across borders and sectors, yet political divisions, nationalist policies, and competing strategic interests limit effective action. The international community may be forced to respond reactively rather than proactively, leaving populations and infrastructure exposed. In such environments, crises feed on themselves, escalating faster than diplomatic or humanitarian interventions can manage. Food insecurity compounds the challenge. conflict-induced disruptions to agriculture, fertilizer supply, or shipping lanes can cause widespread shortages. Nations dependent on imports may face price spikes, rationing, and political unrest. Historical precedent shows that scarcity can destabilize governments, provoke internal conflicts, and even spark international disputes over critical resources. In a globalized system, these effects are interconnected. Energy shortages increase costs for farming and logistics, cyberattacks hinder distribution, and displaced populations strain local food systems. Cinematic imagery illustrates the magnitude of these cascading consequences. Refugees stream across borders under harsh weather, carrying what they can. Oil tankers wait offshore as ports are blocked, while energy plants burn to maintain minimal supply. Power grids flicker, communication networks fail, and financial centers display cascading red alerts. Command centers monitor crises in real time, yet the pace of escalation outstrips traditional decision-making. Across continents, ordinary lives are disrupted by conflicts whose origins may lie thousands of miles away. The combined effect of humanitarian, economic, and energy crises is a fragile global system stretched to its limits. Conflicts in one region, whether conventional, cyber, or economic, can trigger knock-on effects in far-flung corners of the world. Political alliances are tested, populations are destabilized, and the capacity for coordinated response diminishes. The modern global system is intricately connected, resilient only under calm conditions. Under pressure, its vulnerabilities multiply, making each crisis a potential catalyst for wider, systemic instability. In this environment, no nation is insulated. Refugees, energy scarcity, and economic shocks transcend borders. The hidden war, cyber, economic, and technological, intersects with conventional military escalation, amplifying consequences across multiple domains simultaneously. Humanity faces a stark reality. Localized conflict can quickly evolve into a global cascade, and the world's interdependent systems are more fragile than ever. Across continents, the world stands at a precarious juncture. The threats are real, the stakes immense, and the consequences of miscalculation irreversible. Yet, for all the tension and complexity, history reminds us that humanity possesses the capacity to navigate peril. Past conflicts, world wars, the Cold War, regional crises, demonstrate that diplomacy, foresight, and restraint can prevent catastrophe, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable danger. The modern era differs in speed, technology, and scale. Nuclear weapons, hypersonic missiles, AI-driven systems, and cyber capabilities compress timeframes, magnifying the consequences of each decision. Yet these tools also offer clarity. Rapid intelligence, real-time monitoring, and advanced communication systems provide leaders with the data to make informed choices, to pause before escalation, and to seek alternatives to open conflict. In this high-stakes environment, vigilance is as crucial as strength. Global peace is fragile, maintained not only by military deterrence, but by trust, alliances, and international norms. Economic interdependence, shared information networks, and humanitarian imperatives create incentives for restraint. The very interconnectedness that amplifies risk can also foster cooperation. Nations that understand the cost of miscalculation, financial, human, environmental, are more likely to pursue dialogue, negotiation, and measure responses. The world's leaders, militaries, and populations are bound by the same reality. The hidden war, economic, cyber, technological, runs alongside conventional forces. Its dangers are subtle, but no less lethal. Recognition of this reality, coupled with deliberate action, offers a pathway away from catastrophe. In the end, the measure of our era will not be the weapons we build or the systems we deploy, but our ability to balance power with prudence, strength with restraint, and speed with judgment. Humanity has avoided annihilation before. It can do so again. The fragile threads of peace, though tested, remain intact, but they demand care, awareness, and unwavering attention. The question is not whether the world will face crises, but whether it will choose to confront them wisely, preserving life, stability, and hope for generations yet to come.